Her small hands trembled as she clutched at his jacket. Two bright pink streaks ran down her right cheek, paint mixed with tears, and her voice shattered as she looked up at him with desperate eyes. "They're hurting your wife. They took her. They said they're going to kill her." The elegant restaurant fell into stunned silence. Wine glasses froze midair. Every dangerous man in that room turned to stare. But the man this little girl had chosen to beg, the most feared crime boss in New York, went absolutely still. Because no one was supposed to know he had a wife. And what he did next would set the entire city on fire. Stay with me until the end because this story will leave you speechless. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video. Hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. It's a cold Wednesday evening in Manhattan, 1987. The Obsidian Club hummed with the quiet power of men who controlled the city from the shadows. Dimmed chandeliers cast long shadows across tables where deals were made in whispers. This wasn't just any restaurant. This was Theron Castellano's domain. Every waiter knew to keep their eyes down and mouths shut. Every patron understood the unspoken rules. Mind your business, show respect, never cause a scene. Theron sat at his private corner table, a commanding figure in a dark suit and light blue shirt. At just over 40, he had built an empire spanning 3 boroughs. His dark eyes missed nothing. His word was absolute. Tonight, like every Wednesday for 12 years, he conducted his weekly meeting with trusted lieutenants. Conversations flowed in measured tones, territories discussed, problems addressed with surgical precision. This was how Theron operated, methodical, calculated, emotion never clouding judgment. He'd survived in this business longer than most because he understood one fundamental truth. Sentiment was weakness, and weakness got you killed. But he had made one exception. One person he loved more than power itself. He'd sworn to keep her hidden, keep her safe, keep her completely separate from his violent world. But then something happened that would shatter the carefully constructed walls Theron had built around his heart. The restaurant's heavy doors burst open with tremendous force. Every head turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. The maitre d' rushed forward, face pale with panic. But before he could intercept the intruder, everyone saw what caused the commotion. A little girl, no more than 8 years old, stood trembling in the doorway. Her bright pink shirt was torn at the shoulder. 2 vivid pink streaks marked her right cheek like war paint. Light brown hair hung disheveled around a face streaked with tears and terror. She looked like she'd run through hell itself to get here. The child's eyes swept the room desperately, searching for salvation. Restaurant patrons stared back in shocked silence. Some looked away, uncomfortable. Others whispered, annoyed their evening had been disrupted. But the little girl wasn't looking for handouts. She was looking for power. Her gaze landed on Theron's table, and something in those terrified eyes recognized it. Maybe it was how other men deferred to him. Maybe the expensive suit. Or maybe something deeper, a child's instinct recognizing the one person who could actually help. Without hesitation, she ran straight toward him. The room held its collective breath. Theron's bodyguards tensed, hands moving toward their jackets. This was unprecedented. No one approached Theron Castellano uninvited. But before anyone could react, the little girl reached his table and grabbed his arms with both small hands. Her fingers clutched the expensive fabric of his jacket like a lifeline. Pink-stained hands left marks on the dark material. Then she spoke words that would echo in Theron's mind forever, words that would destroy 12 years of carefully constructed secrecy. "They're hurting your wife. They took her. They said they're going to kill her." The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye turned to Theron, waiting to see how the notorious crime boss would handle this unprecedented situation. His reputation was built on being untouchable, unfeeling, a man who showed mercy to no one. A man who had no weaknesses, no vulnerabilities, no wife. Marcus, his second-in-command, stared in shock. Other lieutenants exchanged confused glances. The secret Theron had kept for 12 years destroyed in one desperate sentence from a terrified child. But Theron's training took over. He didn't deny, didn't explain, didn't waste time on damage control. He focused entirely on the little girl clinging to him, her face turned up toward his, frightened eyes wide with desperation and something else. Trust. This little girl who'd never met him was trusting him with everything. Kneeling to her eye level, his massive frame somehow comforting rather than intimidating, he placed gentle hands on her shoulders. His voice was steady despite the chaos erupting inside. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Elowen," she managed between sobs. Theron hadn't always been the ice-cold crime boss New York feared. 12 years earlier, in 1975, he'd been younger, more reckless, still building his empire. One night, rivals sent him a message. 3 bullets, left for dead. He'd stumbled into St. Vincent's Hospital emergency room, bleeding out, barely conscious. The night nurse who saved his life was Aria Chen. She didn't know who he was, just saw a man who needed help and refused to let him die. She worked on him for hours with steady hands and fierce determination. During his recovery, they talked. He gave false names, invented a different life, but the connection was real. He fell in love before she knew the truth. When his men finally found him 3 days later, Aria learned exactly who she'd saved. Her reaction was what you'd expect. Shock, betrayal, fear. She should have walked away. Every instinct told her to run, but she'd seen something in him beyond the crime boss. The man who quoted poetry when he thought no one listened, who asked about her dreams, who looked at her like she was the only real thing in his violent world. Theron gave her a choice. Walk away and I'll never contact you again, or stay and let me love you. But if you stay separate. No one can know, it's the only way I can keep you safe. Aria chose to stay. They married in secret. Separate lives that intersected in stolen moments. For 12 years it worked. Until now. Through sobs, Elowen explained. She lived in the apartment below Miss Aria in Queens. Aria had taken her under her wing 6 months ago when Elowen's single mother worked night shifts. They painted together. Pink was Elowen's favorite color. Aria had mentioned once, almost casually, if anything bad ever happens, there's a place called the Obsidian Club. Ask for Theron Castellano. Today, returning from art class with pink paint still on her hands, Elowen saw 3 men forcing Miss Aria into a black van. Aria was fighting, but she was outnumbered. Elowen hid behind a dumpster, terrified. She heard one man say, "Theron Castellano's wife. Let's see if he loves her enough to die for her." Another laughed. "Victor's going to love this. 12 years hiding her and we found her." They threw Aria into the van. Elowen saw blood on her face. The van had a logo, a wolf's head. Then it sped away. The 7-year-old didn't call police, didn't run to neighbors. She remembered Miss Aria's words and ran. 20 minutes through dangerous streets she'd never walked alone. Past neighborhoods her mother warned her about, running until her legs ached and lungs burned until she found the Obsidian Club. Theron's jaw tightened as he listened. The wolf's head logo. He knew exactly who had taken Aria. Victor Koslov, the Koslov syndicate, an old enemy who'd finally found his weakness. Theron stood, something dark and dangerous settling over his features. He looked at his assembled lieutenants, all staring in shock at the revelation of his secret wife. The truth was out. No hiding it now, so he owned it. "Gentlemen," his voice carried with absolute authority, "I have a wife. Her name is Aria. I've kept her separate from this world for 12 years to protect her, and Victor Koslov has just made the last mistake of his life." Marcus stepped forward immediately. "Boss, we didn't know, but it doesn't matter. We'll burn the city down to get her back." Other lieutenants nodded agreement. Whatever surprise they felt was irrelevant compared to their loyalty. Theron began giving rapid orders. Activate every informant. Check Victor's known locations. Contact police sources. Pull security footage from Aria's neighborhood. Find that black van with the wolf logo. Get Dr. Rivera on standby for medical treatment. Elowen was still clinging to his jacket, trembling. He gently guided her to Thomas, his most trusted guard. "Keep her safe." "She's under my protection now." Thomas nodded solemnly. "With my life, boss." Theron knelt to Elowen's level again. "You were very brave coming here. Miss Aria is lucky to have you." "Are you going to save her?" Elowen's voice was small. "I promise you I will bring her home, and Theron Castellano never breaks a promise." Theron's private office. His phone rang, unknown number. He answered immediately. "Koslov." Victor's voice was smooth and mocking. "Hello, Theron, did you get my message? Did your little messenger find you? Touching how neighborhood children care about your wife." Theron's hand gripped the phone so tightly the plastic cracked. "If you hurt her, you'll what?" Victor laughed. "That's the problem. You do care, you love her, which means you're weak. I've spent 12 years looking for your weakness. Imagine my joy when I found her. Your wife, living in Queens like a regular person. No security, no protection, just waiting to be taken." Every word designed to inflict maximum psychological damage, to make Theron feel responsible. "What do you want?" Theron asked, though he already knew. "Simple, you come to me alone, we have a conversation, maybe she lives, maybe." Location, abandoned warehouse district, Pier 47. Time limit, 6 hours. Come alone or we start sending pieces, starting with her fingers. She has such lovely hands. The call ended. Marcus entered without knocking. It's a trap. He'll kill you both. Theron stood at the window, looking at the city he'd ruled for 12 years. I know, but I'm going anyway. Marcus moved beside him. Boss, you tried to protect her by hiding her, but we could have helped. Your secret didn't protect her. It just meant no one was there when she needed us. The words hit Theron hard because they were true. His pride, his belief he alone could protect Aria, his conviction that secrecy equaled safety, all wrong. Now Aria was paying the price. So what do? Theron asked. Marcus smiled grimly. We fix it together. We don't play by Victor's rules. We bring everything we have. Within minutes, the basement became a war room. Maps covered every surface. Theron's network activated. Street informants reported sightings. Police contacts pulled traffic footage. The black van was tracked heading toward the waterfront. Cross-referencing Koslev properties, they narrowed it to Warehouse 12, Pier 47. An informant confirmed Victor had moved 30-plus armed men there yesterday. This was planned, professional. Sniper positions on surrounding buildings, multiple entry points with kill zones. Victor had prepared for Theron alone or with a small team, not for what Theron was planning. Marcus, how many men can we move into position in 2 hours? 50, maybe 60 if we pull everyone. Do it. Victor wants me vulnerable. I'll show him overwhelming force. Meanwhile, Elowen was with Thomas at a safe house. She suddenly remembered something important. I need to tell Theron something about the men. Thomas called immediately. Theron arrived within minutes, kneeling before her. What did you remember, sweetheart? One man had pink paint on his hand, from my art class. Miss Aria and I were painting in her apartment before. Realization hit Theron instantly. They took her from her apartment, not the street, which means they were inside. There might be evidence. A team searched Aria's apartment immediately. What they found made Theron's blood run cold. Surveillance equipment everywhere. Hidden cameras in every room. Listening devices. Weeks of footage showing Aria's routines, habits, schedule. Victor hadn't just discovered her. He'd been watching for weeks, planning every detail, studying her life, waiting for the perfect moment. Theron returned to Elowen. You just helped me more than you know. That detail about the paint might save Miss Aria's life. Hope filled Elowen's eyes. Really? Yes, Theron promised. At that moment across the city in Warehouse 12, Aria regained consciousness. Her head throbbed, face bruised from fighting during abduction, cut lip, blood she could taste. She was bound to a chair in an empty room smelling of rust and oil. Victor Koslev stood before her, studying her with cold curiosity. Mrs. Castellano. Or should I call you Aria Chen? You kept your maiden name. How modern. Aria spat blood. What do you want? Your husband's life, and through that his empire. You're the bait. Aria actually laughed despite her bruised ribs. He won't come. Theron's too smart for your obvious trap. Victor smiled. Oh, he'll come, because unlike me, he made the fatal mistake of loving someone. Love makes men weak, Victor continued. Makes them predictable, vulnerable. Aria met his eyes with surprising defiance. You're wrong. Love doesn't make him weak. Love makes him dangerous. You just threatened the one thing he'll kill for. You think you're hunting him. You just made yourself his prey. The backhand came fast, snapping her head sideways. Stars exploded across her vision, but she refused to cry out. Brave words from a woman tied to a chair, Victor said coldly. Let's see how brave you are when your husband's corpse is at your feet. After he left, Aria immediately began working her restraints. She wasn't some helpless victim. Years ago, Theron had insisted she learn self-defense, escape techniques, pressure points. She'd thought it paranoid then. Now she was grateful. The ropes were tight but not professionally done. Victor's men were thugs, not trained interrogators. She could work with this. As she twisted and pulled, methodically loosening the bonds, Aria thought about Theron. Knew with certainty he was coming. Knew Victor had made a catastrophic miscalculation. All she had to do was stay alive long enough, and maybe free herself first, because she'd be damned if she waited helplessly. By 8:30 p.m., 3 hours after the abduction, Theron's forces were staged around the warehouse district. 60 men, heavily armed, positioned strategically in shadows. Snipers on rooftops to counter Victor's snipers. Small teams ready to breach from multiple angles. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was a military operation. Theron wore black tactical gear, weapons checked. Marcus stood beside him reviewing final details. Boss, you don't have to go in first. Let us secure it, then bring you in. She's my wife. I go first. Communication checks went out. Everyone in position. Victor's men counted, 35 confirmed, possibly more inside. Professional setup, but Victor expected Theron alone, maybe with small security, not a full-scale assault. Theron gave the order. Remember, Aria's somewhere inside. No one fires until we have her exact location. No explosives, no grenades until she's clear, precision only. Confirmations came back. These men weren't just employees. They were loyal in ways that went beyond money or fear. Final check on Elowen. Thomas reported she was safe, finally sleeping. One less worry. Theron took a deep breath, thinking of Aria. 12 years keeping her hidden, believing secrecy was protection. Tonight he'd show the city what real protection looked like. "All teams," he said into his radio, voice calm and certain. "Move in." At exactly 9 p.m., Victor checked his watch in Warehouse 12. 3 hours left on his ultimatum. He expected Theron closer to deadline, agonizing over his impossible choice. Then Dimitri appeared, concerned. "Sir, movement outside. Multiple vehicles." Victor went to the window. What he saw made his confidence waver. Lights in the distance. Lots of lights, more vehicles than expected, significantly more. "That's not a negotiation party," Dimitri said nervously. "That's an army." Victor's phone rang. Theron's voice came through, ice cold. "Victor, I believe you wanted to see me." "You were supposed to come alone." Victor's mocking tone was gone. "You wanted to draw me out, congratulations, but I didn't come alone and I didn't come to negotiate. I came to take back what's mine and end you." Victor scrambled for control. "You attack, she dies first. I have a gun to her head right now." Theron's laugh was cold. "No, you don't, because you want me to hear her scream. You want me to watch her suffer. You're counting on me caring enough to make mistakes. You're right, I do care. That's not my weakness, Victor. That's my motivation." The threat in his voice was palpable. "So here's what's happening. You bring Aria to the main floor unharmed. We have that conversation you wanted, face to face. Or what? Or I level this building with everyone inside and sort through rubble for my wife's body. You killed her, you die. She's alive, you might survive. You have 5 minutes. The call ended. Dimitri leaned close. "Sir, if we surrender her, no leverage. If we kill her, they slaughter us. No winning move." Victor's jaw tightened. Theron had turned his perfect trap into an impossible situation. "Bring the woman down," he ordered. "If I'm going down, I'm taking Castellano with me." The warehouse floor was vast and empty, shadows stretching between overhead lights. Victor's men brought Aria down, still bound but walking, face bruised, eyes defiant. She'd almost freed her hands but hadn't quite finished. Now she was positioned center floor under a single light, Victor behind her with a gun to her back. "Theron!" Victor shouted. "I know you can hear me. Show yourself." The doors opened. Theron walked in alone, hands visible, no weapon drawn, but Aria could see shadows moving behind him. His men were there, just out of sight. Their eyes met across 50 feet. Aria's face was bruised and bloodied, but she smiled slightly. "I knew you'd come. I never doubted." Theron's expression was controlled fury. His eyes catalogued every injury, every sign of violence she'd endured. When he looked back at Victor, there was death in his gaze. "Let her go. Walk away. I'll let you live." Victor laughed, but it sounded forced. "I still have her. That's all the leverage I need." "Is it?" Theron took steps closer. "Victor, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet." Dimitri whispered to Victor. "Sir, we've lost contact with our exterior positions, all of them." Theron's slight smile was terrifying. "Told you, you've already lost." The standoff stretched taut. Victor's hand shook slightly on the gun. His months of planning turned against him. "Put down your weapon," Victor demanded, trying to regain control. Theron slowly removed his gun, set it down, kicked it away. "See, unarmed, just a man trying to get his wife back." Victor thought this was his moment. Theron vulnerable, Theron without weapon. But he'd forgotten one crucial thing. He'd forgotten about Aria. In one fluid motion, Aria threw herself backward into Victor, using her weight and surprise. His grip loosened just enough. She twisted, broke his hold, dropped and rolled away. Victor fired, bullet hit where she'd been, sparking off concrete. Theron was already moving, covering the distance impossibly fast, retrieved his weapon in one smooth motion and fired. The shot hit Victor's shoulder, not fatal but instantly disabling. Victor's gun clattered away as he dropped to his knees, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Instantly, Theron's men flooded the warehouse from every entrance. Victor's remaining men, already unnerved, dropped weapons and surrendered. Overwhelmed, outmaneuvered, out of options. Theron reached Aria in seconds, pulling her into his arms with gentleness that contradicted the violence he'd just displayed. Hands moving over her face, checking injuries, cataloging every bruise. "Are you hurt?" "Did they?" "I'm okay," Aria interrupted, voice steady. "I knew you'd come, but I wasn't waiting helplessly." A ghost of a smile crossed Theron's face. "I know, God, I know, I'm sorry, my strategy, my secrecy, it almost got you killed." Aria touched his face with her still-bound hands. "We'll talk later, right now can we just go home?" Theron carefully cut the ropes, then pulled her close, just holding her. Victor was on the ground, wounded, surrounded. Marcus and Lieutenant stood nearby, weapons trained, waiting for the expected order. Execution. Standard protocol. Marcus stepped forward. "Boss, he has to die, he knows about Aria, if we let him live, he'll come after her again." It was logical. What any crime boss would do, but Aria spoke up. "Theron, everyone's going to know anyway, the secret's out. Half your organization saw Elowen burst in screaming about your wife. Kill him or don't, but do it for the right reasons, not fear." Theron looked between his wife and enemy. She was right. The secret was exposed. Killing Victor wouldn't change that, but there was another message to send. He walked to where Victor knelt, bleeding. Crouching to his level, Theron spoke quietly. "You wanted to prove love was weakness. You wanted everyone to see me vulnerable." Victor glared through the pain, silent. "You're right," Theron continued. "Everyone will know. They'll know I have a wife. They'll know I love her. And they'll know what happened to you when you touched her." Theron stood, addressing his men now. "Victor Koslov is going to live, broken but alive, and he's going to tell everyone what happened here tonight." He looked down at Victor. "You're going to tell them Theron Castellano has a wife. Tell them what happened when you touched her. Tell them about the army that came. Tell them about the men who died because you thought love was weakness." To his men, "Take him to the hospital. Make sure he lives. I want his scars visible. I want him to be a walking reminder." Marcus stepped closer, concerned. "Boss, letting him live is risky." "No," Theron interrupted. "Killing him is easy. Any thug can pull a trigger, but letting him live with this defeat, letting him be the man who discovered my weakness and still lost everything, that's crueler. And it sends exactly the message I want. Touch my family, this is your fate." As medics took Victor away, Theron turned back to Aria. She was standing steady, but exhaustion and pain were catching up. An ambulance waited outside. Dr. Rivera was there to examine her. Walking toward the exit, Theron carrying most of Aria's weight despite her protests, his men parted. Something remarkable happened. These hardened criminals looked at Aria with respect. Saw the bruises, understood she'd fought back. This wasn't a fragile trophy wife. This was a woman who'd survived. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Dr. Rivera examined Aria. Bruised ribs, facial contusions, cuts needing cleaning. Nothing permanent. You'll heal fully, though it'll hurt for weeks. Just as the doctor finished, another vehicle arrived. Thomas stepped out with Elowen. The little girl had woken and refused to sleep until she knew Miss Aria was safe. Seeing Aria, Elowen broke free and ran forward. "Miss Aria, you're okay. He saved you." Aria knelt despite bruised ribs, pulling the child into a gentle hug. "No, sweetheart, you saved me. You were so brave. You found Theron. You told him. You saved my life." Elowen clung to her, crying with relief. "I was so scared. I ran so fast." Theron knelt beside them, his large frame creating a protective shelter. "Elowen, what you did tonight, most adults couldn't have done. You ran through the city alone to save someone you love. That's real courage." Elowen looked up at him. "What's going to happen now? Will bad men come again?" "No," Theron said firmly, "because everyone knows now. Everyone knows I have people I protect. No one will ever try this again." Aria pulled Elowen closer, then asked the dreaded question. "Sweetheart, where's your mother? She must be worried." Thomas stepped forward, expression grim. "Ma'am, we sent someone to find her. She's gone." "Gone?" Aria's heart sank. Thomas continued. "Landlord says she packed 3 days ago, left without notice or forwarding address. She abandoned Elowen." The words were devastating. Elowen started crying harder. "She said she couldn't do it anymore, that I was too much, that she needed to start over without me." Aria looked at Theron over Elowen's head. An entire conversation passed between them in that glance. A question asked and answered without words. They'd talked about children over the years. Wanted them, but Theron had always said it was too dangerous. Now, holding this brave little girl who'd risked everything, that reasoning felt hollow. Theron spoke gently. "Would you like to come home with us, stay with Miss Aria and me?" Elowen's head shot up, hope and disbelief on her face. "Really, forever?" Aria was already nodding, tears streaming down her face. If you want to, we'll make it official, legal, everything. You'll be ours, truly ours. The girl who saved me becomes my daughter." "Sounds perfect." Elowen threw her arms around both of them. In the cold November night outside a warehouse where violence had just unfolded, a new family was born. Not through blood, but through choice. Through courage and love and the decision to protect each other no matter what. 2 weeks passed, Aria's bruises faded, ribs healed, but changes went deeper than physical healing. Theron's organization underwent complete restructuring. The secret was out, so he adapted. Key lieutenants now officially knew about Aria. She was no longer hidden but defended. Security details assigned. Safe houses established. Emergency protocols planned. Aria received training she'd resisted for years. Advanced self-defense, weapons handling, emergency protocols, how to recognize surveillance. She refused to be helpless or hidden. "Protect me, but don't cage me," she told Theron. "I need to live my life, do my work, be myself, just with better security." Theron agreed. He'd learned isolation wasn't protection. Real security meant integrating their lives with proper defenses. Word spread through New York's underworld like wildfire. Victor Koslev had discovered Theron Castellano's wife and tried to use her. He'd failed catastrophically. His organization dismantled. His men surrendered. He was left alive but broken, a living warning. The message was received. Other families became more cautious, not less. They saw he had a wife, yes, but they also saw what he'd done to protect her. Some rivals tried mocking him, calling him soft. Those people didn't last long. The smarter ones understood. Theron Castellano's love wasn't weakness to exploit. It was a line no one crossed. Ever. 6 months later, spring arrived in New York. Cherry blossoms bloomed, and the city shed its winter gray. Theron, Aria, and Elowen moved into a new home, not separate apartments and hidden lives. A real home, secured like a fortress but disguised as a beautiful family residence. It had a garden where Elowen could play, a studio where she could paint, rooms filled with light and life. Elowen's adoption was finalized in April 1988. She was officially Elowen Castellano now. The transformation was remarkable. The scared, abandoned child had blossomed into a confident young girl. She thrived. Therapy helped her process trauma and her mother's abandonment. Art classes continued. She still loved pink paint, though now it symbolized survival and courage rather than fear. She called them Mom and Dad naturally, without hesitation, as if she'd always been theirs. In many ways, she had been. From the moment she grabbed Theron's jacket, from the moment Aria first welcomed her into her apartment months before, bonds had been forming. The adoption just made official what their hearts already knew. They celebrated with a small party, just them and a handful of trusted people. Thomas, who'd protected Elowen that night, Marcus and his wife, Dr. Rivera, a few others who'd become extended family. Elowen presented them with a painting she'd made for the occasion. It showed 3 figures holding hands, a tall man in a dark suit, a woman with kind eyes, a little girl between them with 2 pink streaks on her cheek. The painting was titled in careful child's handwriting, "My family who came for me." Theron studied it for a long moment, emotions working across his face. He knelt to Elowen's level, the same way he had that first night, and looked at her seriously. "This is beautiful, but you know what? You came for us first. You were the bravest of all of us that night." Elowen smiled, that gap-toothed grin that lit up her whole face. "Miss Aria, I mean Mom, she told me once that family means never letting go, even when you're scared." Aria wrapped her arms around both of them. "And we never will, that's a promise." Later that evening, after guests had left and Elowen was asleep, Theron hung the painting in his office at the Obsidian Club, not in his home office but the public one, where every visitor, every associate, every rival would see it. It was a declaration. This crime boss has a family, a wife, a daughter, and that's not his weakness. It's his line in the sand. Marcus saw it the next day and raised an eyebrow. "Boss, you sure you want that where everyone can see?" Theron looked at the painting. "That's exactly the point. I want them to see it." 12 years I tried to protect Aria by hiding her, Theron explained to Marcus. "It almost got her killed. The secrecy didn't make her safe. It made her vulnerable, unknown, undefended. Now everyone knows I have a wife and daughter. Everyone knows what happened to Victor when he touched my family. That's real security, not hiding, defending." Marcus nodded slowly, understanding. "They say you've gone soft, that love made you weak." Theron's smile was cold. "Let them say it." The smart ones know better. The stupid ones will learn, or they won't be around long enough for it to matter. Over the next 2 years, Theron's reputation evolved. He was still feared, still powerful, still absolutely in control. But the nature of his empire changed. He became known for protecting families in his territories, not just extracting profit, for defending neighborhoods from predatory violence. Other crime bosses noticed. Some quietly adopted similar approaches. The landscape shifted, becoming slightly less brutal, slightly more sustainable. Not because anyone had gone soft, but because they'd learned protected people were more valuable than terrorized ones. Viktor Koslov never recovered. His syndicate collapsed. He lived, as Theron promised, but as a broken man. His visible scars and public defeat made him a pariah. No one wanted to associate with a man who discovered Theron Castellano's weakness and still lost everything. One evening, about 2 years after that terrifying November night, Elowen asked Theron a question during dinner. She was 11 now, thriving in school, her art getting sophisticated and beautiful. "Dad, are you a bad man?" Theron set down his fork and considered seriously. He'd never lied to Elowen, and he wasn't about to start. "I've done bad things, things I'm not proud of, things that hurt people who maybe didn't deserve it." Elowen nodded, absorbing this. "But you're trying to be better, right?" "Mom says you've changed things, made them less bad." "I'm trying," Theron agreed. "Your mom and you make me want to be better, not perfect, I'll never be that, but better than I was." Elowen smiled. "Then you're not a bad man, bad men don't try to be better, they just stay bad." From the mouths of children, wisdom that cut through all moral complexity. Aria reached across the table and squeezed Theron's hand, her eyes saying what her voice didn't need to. "You're more than your worst moments. You're also your best choices." Later that night, after tucking Elowen into bed, Theron and Aria sat on their balcony overlooking the city. Manhattan's lights spread before them like a carpet of stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Aria asked quietly. "Coming for me that night, exposing the secret, changing everything." Theron pulled her closer. "I regret keeping you secret for so long. I regret believing hiding you was protecting you. I regret my pride and fear almost got you killed." He paused. "But coming for you, bringing our life into the open, becoming Elowen's father, I don't regret any of that for a second." Aria leaned her head on his shoulder. "She saved us both, you know, Elowen. She saved me from Viktor, and she saved you from becoming the kind of man who'd forgotten how to feel." Theron nodded. A 7-year-old girl with pink paint on her hands, brave enough to run through the city alone because she refused to let fear stop her. She saw what needed to be done and did it, no hesitation. That's real courage. "Not the absence of fear," he continued, "but acting despite it. She taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness when you're strong enough to defend it." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe and move below them. Somewhere out there, Viktor Koslov lived his diminished life. Somewhere, other criminals were learning the lesson his defeat had taught. And somewhere behind them, a little girl slept peacefully, surrounded by pink-painted canvases and the absolute security of knowing she was loved and protected. The city whispered about the night Theron Castellano went to war for love. Some said he'd gone soft. They were wrong. They'd seen him become complete. And there's nothing more dangerous than a powerful man who's found what he'll burn the world down to protect. Sometimes the smallest hands carry the greatest power to change everything. Sometimes love doesn't make you weak, it makes you unstoppable. And sometimes a child's courage can crack open even the hardest heart and prove that family isn't a liability. It's the reason to fight. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more incredible true stories.